This is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR podcast. As the summer days tick away into August, Cup Series and Xfinity make their way to Daytona for their second trip of the year. So much has unfolded since the last time we were at Daytona for the first races of the season. Got into town late Thursday and was ready to get over to the track first thing Friday. Storylines for the weekend, starting with Xfinity. Daytona marks the third to last race of their regular season. After the off week, and thankfully only breaking his collarbone after a scary fall at Watkins Glen, Connor Zilisch will be back in the Xfinity seat. Parker Kligerman will be ready to back him up if needed. Richard Childress Racing's Xfinity drivers, Jesse Love and Austin Hill, will be ready to strike. Now Cup Series. After a long regular season that started off at Daytona for the 500, drivers will have one last chance in the regular season to break through before the round of 16 starts next weekend in Darlington for the playoffs. Who will step up and who will fall short? Was on track all weekend, bringing you the action. Interview with Xfinity driver Ryan Ellis, yellow flag, green flag, Fast Davies bets, discussions with Dave, predictions for DuQuoin State Fairgrounds, Portland, Darlington, and so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. Big shout outs to J.R. Pine from Alloy Employer Services and to everybody at Optum. Greatly appreciate the hospitality throughout the weekend. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He'll be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Now for the ARCA Series recap. So much on-track action from Daytona to go through, but let's start off with the ARCA Series action from Madison. Max Reeves would be on the front row after winning the pole. He would start alongside Butterbean Queen. Reeves would get the jump and lead early. Winner from Watkins Glen, Tristan McKee, would get past Queen and start to battle Reeves for the lead. The young McKee would push it a little bit too hard and go spinning from the second spot, bringing out the yellow. Reeves would edge out Butterbean on the following restart. A few more cautions would fly, but Reeves would not be stopped. He would go on to dominate and win the ARCA race in Madison. Now for trivia question time. This week's question is, what year was the inaugural Southern 500 held at Darlington? Answer coming at the end. Now for the Xfinity recap. Xfinity would get underway after some weather in the area, which would also affect their qualifying, which was ended several cars into the session. Based off the metric, Connor Zilisch would be on the pole, but he would elect to drop to the rear. Sam Mayer and Sammy Smith would start on the front row, bringing the race to green. All the talk in the garage pre-race was that Zilisch would come out of the car after the first stage and be replaced by Parker Kligerman. After several laps of racing side by side, Sammy Smith, then Mayer would each take turns at the lead. Then on lap 12, the yellow flag would fly for weather. Under the yellow, Connor Zilisch will get out of the car and be replaced by Kligerman. Then the rain would be too much and the red flag would come out for about 40 minutes to dry the track. Smith and Mayer restart. Sammy Smith gets the jump and leads. Several wreck on the last lap of stage 1, which would be won by Smith. The second stage would be entirely green until 2 to go when Sammy Smith would get turned, collecting 6 others. Justin Allgaier goes on to win the second stage. With Ryan Sieg leading stage 3, there would be 2 late cautions. The second one would collect Sieg as he gets turned by Leland Honeyman through the trioval, collecting 10 other cars. After hopping in the seat for Connor Zilisch, Parker Kligerman would lead next to Austin Hill for the overtime restart. Parker will get the jump and create a big gap. His junior motorsport teammates of Sammy Smith and Justin Allgaier get past Hill, and Parker Kligerman, driving for Connor Zilisch, gets the win in the 88 Junior Motorsports car. Congratulations, Parker. Now for the Cup Series recap. The big one for the regular season marbles. And the final 2 playoff spots would be decided Saturday night in Daytona. Just like Xfinity, the qualifying would be rained out. Ryan Blaney and Alex Bowman would start up front. It would be mayhem in Stage 1 with 3 yellows during the stage. One of them collecting Alex Bowman, ending his day. Would it end his playoff dreams as well? Kyle Larson fights off Ryan Blaney and wins Stage 1. The second stage would only see 1 yellow, but some very exciting racing. Seeing Ty Dillon, Cody Ware, Van Gisbergen, Michael McDowell, Cole Custer, Joey Logano, and Ross Chastain all take turns up front. Ross Chastain gets a run at the end and reels in Joey Logano and wins Stage 2. Christopher Bell and John Hunter Nemechek lead the field to green for the final stage of the 2025 regular season. After a quick yellow, Joey Logano would surge past Nemechek for the lead. Joey would hold that lead until, with 11 laps to go, he would get spun from the front spot through the infield grass. Eric Jones and Justin Haley restart with 5 laps to go. It would all come down to the final lap. Cole Custer takes the lead before Haley battle backs and blocks him. Ryan Blaney gets a charge off turn 4 as they go 4 wide to the tri-oval to the start-finish line for the final time. Ryan Blaney gets the jump and wins the Coke Zero Sugar 400. With the win by a driver with a previous win so far in the regular season, Alex Bowman punches his ticket by the skin of his teeth into the playoffs. What a race and the finish. Quick look back at the predictions we made. ARCA went with Max Reeves. He finishes first and wins. Xfinity, Jesse Love doesn't repeat. He goes on to finish 4th though. Cup Series, Ryan Preece couldn't seal the deal after being up front. He comes home 14th. Now for yellow flag, green flag. ARCA, green flag. Max Reeves in the Joe Gibbs 18 was almost untouchable on Friday, winning the pole and the race. Yellow flag, Xfinity. Daytona is Daytona. Was expecting more out of Eric Amarola though in the 19 Joe Gibbs car. A car that won the race last year with Ryan Truex at the helm. Green flag, Xfinity. The backup driver of the night, Parker Kligerman, gets in the car in support of Connor Zilisch, and Parker goes on to take the win. Yellow flag, Cup. Expected Brad Keselowski to be contending, which he was at times. He finishes 18th, and none of the Roush, Fenway, Keselowski cars qualify for the playoffs this year, something I was not expecting. Green flag, Cup. I know it wasn't the win he needed to make the playoffs, but Daniel Suarez looked strong all night from the grandstands. What can Daniel do in the final 10 races of the 2025 season? Now for someone that was just in the Xfinity seat Friday night, we bring on driver of the 71 for DGM Racing, Ryan Ellis. Here's what Ryan had to say. Next guest we bring on to splash of gas is driver of the 71 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Ryan Ellis. Thank you for joining the show, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Before we get into the on-track action this year, prior to this season, you were at Alpha Prime for several years before heading to DJM. How has that change been working with Mario and everyone at DJM?
It's been awesome. I guess going into this year, there was one of the few teams on the back half of the garage I just had never really dealt with. And since their majority of their team is based in Florida, I really didn't know anybody. I don't feel like I talked to Mario and his family other than maybe saying hi and passing in the garage area. And that's pretty rare for me. I've been around for a long time. And feel like I know pretty much everybody on that side of the garage. So it was a learning year, learning literally people's names and getting phone numbers and figuring out, obviously, how to work with Mario from a crew chief and team owner perspective, and new spotter, knew everybody. But it's been absolutely phenomenal, and just really appreciative of all the hard work they put in, and they're just so passionate about racing. At the end of the day, that's what drove me to the team, and I can see that every single week with how hard they're working and how much they care about our results. So it's just been a really, really great change, and I'm happy that we've had a pretty solid season so far.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Great people over there. Glad things are working out. At the end of May, you had your best result of the season so far during an overtime finish in Charlotte, coming home P8. What did that 8th place finish mean for you and the team?
I don't know how much it meant to the team, but hopefully a good amount. I feel like they've got a decent amount of top tens, and throughout their years in the sport, working with people like Ross Chastain and Josh Williams and all sorts of people. So for me, it was being my first top 10. I was really, really happy that I was able to get it with them. I was hoping it came a little bit earlier in the year with some of the results that we almost had, whether it's Daytona or Atlanta, Rockingham. I felt like we could have had one, Martinsville maybe, but just ultimately validated my change to DTM, because if you told me I was able to just knock one top 10 finish out this year, hopefully more like 2 or 3, it would be 100% worth it. So it was cool that it was at Charlotte and not at a Daytona or Talladega, because we had to work our butt off to get that finish, and it was a slicked off racetrack and had to earn it in every sense of the word. So I think I broke down crying the second I knew we were in the top 10, and I felt like I've listened to the audio in our car, between me, my spotter, and Mario probably 100 times since then, and watched the race probably the amount of times.
Pretty cool. Appreciate the honesty on that. Moving to Daytona, had a tough day at Watkins Glen the week before, and you were 21st in Indy and 25th in Iowa. With qualifying getting rained out after several cars into the session on Friday afternoon, how were you feeling going to green, starting 31st?
Honestly, my comfort zone, I guess. We qualified 8th or 9th at Talladega in the spring, and I was like, I'm not used to being up here for the start of these races. I'm the kind of guy that likes to feel out stage 1 and 2, and we're not fighting for stage points, so it's just feel the race out, let them wreck a few, and work our way up when the pay window opens. So I was okay with how we started the race and felt like we were sticking to our strategy. And then I think handling came into play more than I would have guessed in the final 10 laps, because I thought I had a tire going down. I pulled myself a little bit out of the field. They were luckily wrecked and put a new right front on, which I don't think we had an issue, and then had to fight back through the field. And unfortunately, I fought through right when Brian Sieg and all those guys got collected in a wreck, and I got collected. So I felt like I just finally got into the main pack when we had that accident, and then they did great damage repair and put us right back in the fight.
Yeah, gotcha. You just mentioned that wreck. Was just about to talk about. What did you see there, like in the closing laps and into the overtime?
I don't know I think a lot of the drivers probably see the same thing, where you just see you're in that line, you're kind of driving off the wing of the car in front of you, and saw a car just get hooked hard left. And usually when a car goes hard left, and we're as packed up as we are, there's cars going hard right, because they're getting right hooked and left hooked, and
yeah,
you just try to not put yourself in a bad spot. I think the more you do, the more you make yourself susceptible to getting turned by just overreacting. So I just tried to stay off towards the wall and hope that they came off the wall, and Josh Williams got hooked, no fault of his own, and came across our left front hood and gave us a pretty good amount of damage, which I thought was race ending. But man, it was like our front of the car was basically sitting on the ground. So I was pretty sure we weren't going to be able to make minimum speed or whatever. And luckily they crashed pretty much the entire field. So we went from like what might have been a 25th place finish to top 10 there for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, in the end, you walk away with a 11th place finish. How were you feeling leaving Daytona?
Uh, Kind of like I didn't know what happened because I mean, it's just a weird race of like nothing happening for however many, where it's 60, 70, 80, get in the pack, wreck, and then fight back only for their entire field just to crash in front of you, and then being in the top 10, which didn't feel earned at all from my perspective. Um, so then obviously getting bumped to 11th, I was like, I feel like I just got a gift. So, I mean, as much as I would have loved the top 10, it would have felt like the opposite of Charlotte, where I don't feel like I earned it necessarily that day from a driver's perspective, but gladly would have walked away with it. So it just felt like I don't know. It's just like we just put a randomizer on all of our finishing positions, and I just pulled an 11. So I guess that's just how those plate races work.
Yeah, definitely a lot of craziness there at the end. I'm glad we were able to get the car moving and get that finish. Looking to this upcoming weekend, Xfinity heads out to Portland for another road course. You finished 17th there last year. Are you looking forward to going back, and any expectations and goals for Saturday?
I'd like to. I feel like I've done a decent job at the first couple road courses this year. Coda, I don't even remember where we went after that. From Coda, Mexico, I felt like I ran pretty good at. I don't think I did a great job at Watkins Glen until we almost lost the top of our race car. So I think we're just going in there, being aggressive, and fighting for some track position the first couple stages, and hopefully come home with a top 20. They're just, the series is so competitive now. Top 20s are solid days. You know, if you can get a top 15 due to some attrition, that's great. And DGM's road course program is phenomenal. I have no idea what race car we're using because in that one wreck at Watkins, we pretty much destroyed both of our top road course cars. So TBD on what we're bringing to the track, but just hopefully can come back with a nice, quiet top 20.
Gotcha. I'm sure they'll set something up good for you. I appreciate you touching on that. Of the remaining tracks on this year's schedule, you have your best career average finishes at Talladega of those tracks. I know you're focused on each and every weekend, but any track in particular you're looking forward to going before the season ends?
Probably all of them. Our schedule, I really do. There's not a lot of tracks that I dislike. I mean, I'm really looking forward to Gateway because it's a track I haven't run in 10 years or something like that, and I thought that was a really fun track in the Truck Series when I got to run it. Bristol, I felt like it's always a fun track, and I mean, I don't know, we just really missed it in the spring, so I'm looking forward to getting a little bit of revenge on that place. I've had some great races at Kansas, and yeah, it's just like you can look at every track and find some opportunity in it. Talladega, you look at it a little bit differently, obviously, but there's no real prep that goes into it other than just watching a lot of videos of car wrecking and trying to understand how to make the most of it. So we got onboard cameras at Kansas and Talladega, so maybe those two, just because I like when people are able to see the action from my perspective, and hopefully we have good races at both of those.
Cool. Really appreciate you breaking that down. Last question. Along with racing, you also grew up playing hockey. What have you learned from on the ice that you've been able to bring to the track?
So I don't know if it's as much what I learned. It's just I use hockey as a tool to, in the past, take some frustration out. Being able to blow somebody up with a big hit back in college and high school took away some of the anger before going to the racetrack and allowed me to be a little bit more patient. I think about it because I feel like everything I do is driven intrinsically through my love for racing, and I think I still play hockey this day to find the ability to slow things down on track, whether it's video games or beer league hockey. I think just the more you're able to keep your brain and body active, it helps you slow things down on the racetrack because things happen quick, but the more you're involving yourself in some quick activities, the more you're able to slow it down and react better.
Cool. Thank you for going over that. Always fun to be out on the ice for sure. Thank you so much for the time, Ryan, and best of luck this weekend in Portland. And we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Great chatting with Ryan and hearing his perspective on the race and the season, how it's going. Now for discussions with Dave. driver switch in the Xfinity Series. The Connor Zilisch story has taken several turns this year. Some highs, some lows. The way things ended on Friday and the driver tapped to replace him, Parker Kligerman, has such an amazing story himself. And Parker retired from full-time racing at the end of last year, leaving the Big Machine racing car, which Nick Sanchez replaced him for this season. Kligerman hops in relief of Connor Zilisch at Daytona. And boy, before you know it, that 88 car with Kligerman behind the wheel was up front. And in the overtime, he was strong and grabs the checkered flag. Being in the stands and in the current day NASCAR, I don't think I'll ever see a replacement driver win a top 3 series race again. You know, it's extremely rare. It was really cool to see that. Was in turn 1 and turn 2, watching all the action all night. And Kligerman, as we've seen in past plate track races, he can get up front. Sometimes he can get a little squirrely, but Kligerman's a veteran. He won in the Truck Series race, as we were talking earlier on the show this season, but the 75 truck was, I believe it was too low, the rear end, and he gets disqualified, and that win goes to Corey Heim. So we know Parker knows how to draft, and he goes on to win the race. As I said, it was awesome. The question that comes to mind, and Dale Jr. was given some mixed signals saying that Parker earned something from this. Does this bring Parker Kligerman out of retirement and into full-time racing next year? Spoiler to one of our next topics on this episode, Connor Zilisch is going full-time cup racing with Trackhouse Racing. Does this put Parker Kligerman in 88 for 2026 in Xfinity? I mean, I understand that Parker has the duties of being a broadcaster and believe it seems like he has a very strong passion doing that and, you know, bringing what drivers see and hear into people's homes through the TV. But if he has a chance to drive the 88, which is top of the field in Xfinity this year, that inner driver in him should come out, and I think he would take it. Obviously, Parker would have to work out some deal. I believe it's CW and combination of them and NBC he has his broadcasting deal with. I'm sure he can work something out if he does want to go back full-time Xfinity racing. Food for thought with him winning on Friday night. Next topic on discussions with Dave. No RFK cars make it into the playoffs. If you told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have said you're wrong. I strongly believed one, not if two, Roush, Fenwick, Keselowski cars would make it into the playoffs. Each of them have been strong throughout this year. And if you told me that the car between the three of them, of Keselowski, Buescher, and Preece, that Keselowski would be the worst in the standings of the three, I wouldn't have believed that either. You know, Buescher was the first guy out, unfortunately, and then you had Ryan Preece, shortly behind him in points. And each of those guys, including Keselowski, had opportunities to win on Saturday night in Daytona. But the regular season just did not pan out for all three of them, and for not one of them to make it and not get a win in the regular season, I just wasn't expecting that. The stuff that they've been building and getting race wins in past seasons, I thought that was going to be shown even more by RFK this year. But that was not the case. I was wrong. And can one of their drivers rattle off a win in the playoffs? I sure think so. Don't see why Chris Buescher can't play playoff spoiler like he did last year, nabbing a win when he was not qualified in the playoffs. We will see what happens for those three drivers in the remaining 10 races. Moving right along in discussions with Dave, some big news that was announced Saturday. Kaulig Racing is going to be fielding 5 Ram trucks next year in the Truck Series. during the Michigan race weekend. A couple months ago, Ram announced they are getting back into the sport and going to be a manufacturer next year in the Truck Series with teams to be announced later. This was the first announcement for Ram. And their partnership with Colleague, there's a few things that surprised me. So Ram will be completely funding the trucks next year with Colleague. They're going to be the main sponsors. That surprised me a little bit, but understand that Ram is trying to get a foothold back into the sport. And it was announced that Colleague will field 5 Ram trucks. When this announcement came out on Saturday, I'm sitting in Daytona, see this, and I go, wow, assuming it would be a 2 or 3 truck team for Colleague next year, as this year they have 3 full-time Xfinity rides. It looks like next year they're just going to go with 2. But when they announced it was 5 trucks they're going to field next year for Ram, that was something that really blipped on my radar. Colleague, as we know, has been in the Xfinity Series for number of years now, and they've rattled off their fair share of wins, and now they have 2 full-time Cup drivers, Cup Series rides, AJ Allmendinger in the 16 and Ty Dillon's in the 10. But now, from the Truck Series, there isn't like a Joe Gibbs, there isn't a Team Penske in the Truck Series. Now, for Colleague, there's a way for drivers to have a chance from the Truck Series right into Cup. Like, there's a direct pathway, and that's pretty cool. And then, another question that came to mind, and, Colleague didn't announce for their Xfinity program that they are still going to field Chevy Xfinity cars next year. Will that change down the road? Ram has said that they want to get back into Cup. Does that include Xfinity? I would assume that Colleague eventually would go to Ram in Xfinity and Cup, but more pieces need to fall into place for that to happen. And, my last question with this, we just said 5 Ram trucks are going to be fielded for Colleague next year. Who fills those seats? Can obviously go in several different directions. If I'm them, I'm going to tap at least 2 to 3 of the top late model guys. I know the Cars Tour and then the, ASA All-Stars Tour has some really good top up-and-coming drivers and veteran drivers there as well. So that's going to be another interesting topic to see how Colleague fills their lineup for the Truck Series next year. Now, our last topic on discussions with Dave, we kind of gave a little bit sneak peek, was announced at Daytona. Connor Zilisch officially to Trackhouse Cup Series next year. The thing that shook me the most on this, and Bob Pockris said this as well, the emotion that Connor Zilisch had in this press conference. He was in tears. And, a lot of drivers do, have their emotions on their sleeve. And Connor Zilisch is typically, a level-headed individual dealing with the media and is pretty bright when he does speak about racing. Was not expecting him to have such emotion outpouring with this announcement. It's just great for the sport. The guy is super, super dedicated, as we know. Just can't wait to see what he can do in a Cup car next year. That wraps up this week's edition of Discussions with Dave. Now, Truck Series, Playoff, Power Rankings, coming in the Darlington, hottest to nottest. Got to start off with the hottest driver in the Truck Series garage, Corey Heim. And he's won the last 2 races. Can Heim time be stopped? Now for the driver that I believe has the best chance to stop Heim, and that is Lane Riggs. Lane shouldn't have to worry about Heim right away, as I believe both of them will cruise into the round of 8, but will be very interesting to see how they both race each other throughout the playoffs. Ty Majeski is heating up at the right time this season. Last year's champ hasn't won a race yet this year, but in the last 5 races, he's posted finishes of 9th or better, with 3 top 5s. Ty won't be winless for long. Next driver is currently slightly lower in the standings, but we know what he can do during the playoffs, and that's Grant Enfinger. He has his work cut out for him this year, but I believe he's going to be another championship contender. Like Enfinger, another veteran of the sport, Daniel Hemrick, in the McAnally Higelman 19, he was second at Watkins Glen, had the win in Martinsville. Can Hemrick be a factor? I sure think so. Don't think fellow McAnally Higelman teammate Tyler Ankrum is too far behind Hemrick. Tyler's been in the sport for a slew of a number of years at this point. Don't see why him or Hemrick wouldn't have a fighting chance in one of the spots in the Final Four in Phoenix. Chandler Smith, even though he won at North Wilkesboro, he hasn't had any top 5 finishes since then. He will need to do more to be competitive if he wants to sniff a spot in the Final Four. Caden Honeycutt should be higher, but he's coming into a new team mid-season in Halmar Friesen Racing. His path to the round of 8 might be more rocky than expected. Jake Garcia in the Thor Sport truck should have speed. If he can find more consistency, he could have a chance in the round of 8. The 10th and final driver we'll talk about is Raja Karuth. Since his win in Nashville in May, his best finishes are 2 10th place finishes, one at Pocono and at IRP. He was 32nd at Watkins Glen and 19th in Richmond. He will need to improve if he wants a chance at the round of 8. Now, Cup Series power rankings to start the playoffs. We start off with the guy that won the Daytona 500 this year, William Byron. Think he's going to have a heck of a chance to win at Darlington. We'll see how the rest of the round of 16, but start things off. I think Willie B is the hottest right now. And then right with Denny Hamlin, he's going to be a factor too. 3, guy that just won the second race in Daytona, Ryan Blaney. I think he's the top Penske at the moment. And then following the Hendrick teammate of William Byron, the second Hendrick car on the power rankings right now, I'm going to give that to Chase Elliott. Then 5th, Christopher Bell. He started the year real hot, cooled off a little bit. Think he'll be a factor more into this playoffs. Then 6th, Kyle Larson. Since he attempted the double in Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600, he kind of hasn't been the same, but he's still going to be a factor 100%. Then the road course master, Shane Van Gisbergen. If he can get through the round of 16, I think he has a really good chance with the Roval getting into the round of 8. The 8th on the power rankings, going to give it to Bubba. Had the big win at the Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400. He's been having solid finishes recently. Then 19, Chase Briscoe, won in Pocono. And he won the Southern 500 last year when it was the last race of the regular season, locking his spot in. Will Chase be a factor this year? I sure think so. 10th in the power rankings, the second Penske driver we'll talk about, Joey Logano. Since 12th in the standings, just above the cut line for the round of 12. See what Joey can do. Then Josh Berry in the 21. He did have the win in Las Vegas. He's a short track guy as well. Next, the 3, Austin Dillon. He just won in Richmond. He was really dominant in Richmond. If Austin can continue that through this round of the playoffs, he should be in the round of 12, but he needs to bring that dominance like he had in Richmond to the next 3 races for sure. Now, we'll say Alex Bowman, the last guy in the playoffs. He's a Hendrick car. You know he's going to be fast. We'll see what he can do. Now, 14th, Ross Chastain, making up the second Trackhouse car in the playoffs. I have Tyler Reddick 15th. Totally could have placed him higher. Reddick, he was in the Final Four last year. He doesn't have any wins so far. I'm kind of 50-50 if he's going to grab a win in the last 10 races, so that's why I put him at 15th. Last but not least, and just like Reddick, you easily could have argued to put Austin Cindric higher. I have him 16th. We'll go over these power rankings each and every race as we go through this year's playoffs. Now, my predictions for the Truck Series round of 10 going into the playoffs in Darlington. Of course, Heim, Lane Riggs, Chandler Smith, Daniel Hemrick, and Tyler Ankrum, Ty Majeski, I believe have no problem getting into the round of 8. Grant Enfinger, he's a veteran. He's going to figure a way to point his way in if he doesn't get a win. I think that's a very strong option for him. Caden Honeycutt technically sits under Raja Caruth, minus 2 points of the cutoff line for the round of 8. Raja's really going to need to improve over these next 3 races if he wants a chance at the round of 8. He's just did lock himself in with that win in Nashville, but point-wise, just since then, needs to get better if he wants to make a run in the playoffs. I think Honeycutt gets that 8th and final spot for the round of 8. I do believe Raja Caruth and Jake Garcia will get eliminated the way things sit. We'll revisit these after Darlington. Predictions for the round of 16 Cup Series. Right now, the 4 drivers that I do believe are going to get eliminated, Austin Dillon, even though how dominant he was in Richmond, he's really going to need to flip that switch back on if he wants a chance at the round of 12. I think he gets eliminated. Alex Bowman, I think all 3 other Hendrick cars get in, but I think he's the first of the Hendrick cars to get eliminated. Tyler Reddick, I can't believe I am saying this, but he just hasn't wet my whistle as he's done in other years, being dominant. I think I totally could be wrong with this, but right now, the way things sit, I think Reddick does get eliminated. And you can make arguments for several other drivers, that these combination of 3 tracks are not strong for them. But in the end, I do think the 4th driver to get eliminated is going to be Josh Berry. And people are going to say, wait, Dave, those are the 4 drivers that are below the cut line right now. And yes, 100%. But if you look at Chastain, Logano, I think they just figure out a way to get into the next round. And Austin Cindric has just been quick. And guess who's won the last 2 championships? Team Penske. Not trying to give a playoff or a prediction at all by any means. But I think Austin figures it out how to get into the round of 8. Those are my predictions right now going into Darlington. Totally can make changes after. That's the fun of it, right? And just can't wait for the Cup Series playoffs to start at the Southern 500 in Darlington. Now for NASCAR history time. Southern 500 through the years. On September 5th, 1955, Herb Thomas etched his name in Darlington history once again. He dominated the Southern 500, lapping the entire 69-car field and became the first driver ever to score back-to-back victories at Darlington. September 6, 1965, Ned Jarrett earned his lone Darlington victory, but it was still unforgettable. He finished 14 laps ahead of Buck Baker, a margin so massive it stands still as the largest in NASCAR history. September 1st, 1985, NASCAR's new $1 million bonus, the Winston Million, was up for grabs for any driver who could win 3 of the season's crown jewel races. Bill Elliott, $1 million Bill, already a fan favorite, became the first to cash in, giving him the nickname. Starting from the pole, he held off Cale Yarborough in a thrilling finish at the line. May 17th, 2020, NASCAR returned after a 2-month shutdown from COVID-19. Darlington hosted the comeback, and Kevin Harvick delivered some sense of normalcy at the time, leading 159 laps on his way to the first of 9 victories that year. Now, the races for this upcoming weekend, drivers to look out for ARCA as they go to the DuQuoin State Fairgrounds. We start off with last week's winner, back in the Joe Gibbs equipment, Max Reeves. The first of the Venturini drivers, Lawless Allen, should be quick. Jade Avedison and Isabella Robusto, the other Venturini drivers, should be fast as well. Then, of course, can never forget about the 28 Brandon Butterbean Queen in this year's ARCA Series. Last but not least, can't forget about Brent Cruz in the Nitro Motorsports 70. I think this race is going to be a three-way dogfight between Reeves, Queen, and Brent Cruz. Who will come on top? Now, drivers to look out, Truck Series in Darlington as they make their first race of the playoffs along with the Truck Series. Start off with part-time truck driver Corey Day. He had his best finish in the Truck Series earlier this season. What can he do in the Spire 7? Just went over individually each of the playoff drivers, but I believe the ones to look out for Darlington are going to be Corey Heim, Grant Infinger, Daniel Hemrick, Lane Riggs, and Ty Majeski. Other full-time driver that didn't make the playoffs that I think should be hot is the 99 of Ben Rhodes. Corey LaJoie will be back in the Spire truck. He should be up front and a contender. And don't forget about Trevor Bayne. Was announced he will be in the number 1 Tricon Garage Toyota Tundra. Trevor is a past Daytona 500 champ. What can he do at Darlington? Really excited for him to be back in the truck cockpit. Now, Xfinity drivers to look out for at the Portland Road Course. Xfinity will be headed out west as they race on the lefts and rights of Portland. First driver, he's been good on the road course and street courses this year. Sheldon Creed in the Haas factory car. Will Brown, an Australian supercar driver, will be driving the number 11 for Colleague Racing. The Australian supercar drivers seem to bode well in Xfinity on the road course. Look at SVG, what he did in Xfinity just last year. What can Will Brown do? Jack Perkins, just like Will Brown, Australian supercar driver. Perkins will be driving the 19 for Joe Gibbs. He should be a contender. Austin Hill, Richard Childress, 21. Hill did have a boneheaded move that put Michael McDowell and several others ended their day at Watkins Glen as that crazy wreck at the end of the Xfinity race. He did trigger that, but Hill's gotten better and better as through these road courses, and that was just a mistake at Watkins Glen. I think he's cleaner in Portland. Does that end with a top 3 or a top 5? We'll see. Austin Green and the Jordan Anderson 32. Green won at the ARCA level this year. We know he's a really good road course driver. Don't see why Green can't get a top 10 or even better. 54 Taylor Gray. He was second in Mexico City. He should be fast again. Thomas Annunziata in the 70 for Cope Family Racing. Not sure if he can be a contender, but he did win the Lime Rock ARCA race. What can he do? Is a New Jersey guy as well. Connor Zilisch in the 88. Road courses and Connor Zilisch are almost at the Xfinity this year. Kind of automatic. Do throw in SVG, but Shane is not racing in this one. I still have a question mark next to the 88. Is Zilisch completely healed up? I don't think so. He did look sore getting out after just 11, 12 laps at Daytona, and I understand he just had surgery on his collarbone and did break that, less than 2 weeks before the race. Is Zilisch going to be able to be his normal self and dominate this road course race? I don't think so, but you can't count him out. Now for Fast Davies bets. Starting off with Darlington Truck Series. Grant Infinger, a top 3 is plus 300. Think that's achievable. Xfinity Road Course from Portland. Taylor Gray for a top 3 is plus 550. Hit that. Cup Series from Darlington, the Southern 500. Last year's winner, Chase Briscoe, is plus 330 for a top 3. Is that free money? Some might think so. Now, predictions for the weekend. Starting with the DeCoin Fairgrounds, ARCA. Should be a great battle, as mentioned, between Cruz, Reeves, and Queen. In the end, I think it's going to be Brent Cruz going to victory lane. Now, Xfinity from Portland. Zilisch is still the favorite, but can he stay in the car the whole time and be competitive? I'm not sure. I say Taylor Gray in the Joe Gibbs 54 grabs the win. He's been really strong on the road courses this year. Now, the predictions for Darlington, Truck Series. Say Corey Heim lays it down and starts the playoffs with a bang and grabs the win. Cup, for the Southern 500, William Byron, was strong in the spring when Cup first came to Darlington. Believe he can pull a full race together this time and grab the win. Now for trivia answer time. This episode's question, as mentioned earlier, what year was the inaugural Southern 500 held in? Answer, the first Southern 500 was held on September 4th, 1950, and drew a record field of 75 cars and paid a total purse of over $25,000, the largest at that time in NASCAR history. In the end, the first Southern 500 was won by Johnny Mance. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. And he can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Appreciate each and every one of you listening. Had such a fun time in Daytona. Can't wait for the Labor Day weekend. Hope everyone has a safe and fun weekend with their families. Till next time, everybody. Splash of Gas out.